Good
morning and welcome to the year 2001. The blaze of fireworks at celebrations around the world to usher in the new year last night were eclipsed only by the official dawn of the new millennium today, Monday, the 1st of January, 2001. Happy New Year, everybody, and welcome to this special New Year's Day edition of Today. I'm Katie Couric here in Studio 1A, along with Matt Lauer, Ann Curry, and Al Roker. Hi, everybody. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Very exciting with the noisemaker. That's right. Did you have a nice night, everybody?
Yes, very quiet. Went out to dinner.
Good for you.
Now we're here.
Everybody else kind of subdued on this New Year's morning.
I'm
That's
not
all
much
right.
of a New Year's Eve person myself.
No?
No, I'm not a big party girl.
Well, hopefully you'll be more of a party animal during the program this morning. By the way, are we officially in the new millennium now?
I think so.
So all the confusion over last year, it's settled. We're officially in the 21st century.
Done. So we're told.
Yeah. All right, good. So it's nice to hear that. We're going to take a look at what the new era holds for us this morning. We'll look into what life will be like and explore some expected advances in medicine, technology, transportation, and the area of space. And we can all use more space.
That's right. Yeah, we sure could. Plus, we're going to ring in the new millennium with some music from the incomparable opera star Renee Fleming.
Also, one of this country's best pairs skating teams is going to be performing for us this morning at Rockefeller Center on the ice skating rink.
And we're going to sample and learn about some traditional New Year's dishes from around the world.
So we'll have all that and much more on this New Year's morning. But first, let's get the latest news this New Year's morning from Weekend Today's Soledad O'Brien. Soledad, good morning.
And good morning to you, and good morning, everyone, and Happy New Year. Boxing great Muhammad Ali helped ring in the new year last night, pressing the button that dropped the ball in New York City's Times Square. An estimated 500,000 people were on hand there in the bitter cold to usher in the start of 2001. The scene was much the same at the stroke of midnight across the United States. In Las Vegas, about 350,000 people turned out for the biggest fireworks display in the nation. Fireworks also lit up the night sky from the Space Needle in Seattle. Well, this is no day off for utility.
New millennium. According to most calendars, the new era begins today. So why all the hype last year? Richard Landis, a history professor at Boston University and director of the Center for Millennial Studies, can clear that up for us. Professor Landis, good morning.
Morning.
All right, please explain to us, because I'm very confused, about this year marking the true beginning of the real millennium.
Well, chronologically, they didn't have a zero in the Middle Ages when they first started using this calendar. So they started with the year 1, which means that the year 1000 was the last year of the first millennium, just like the year 1900 was the last year of a century that started in 1801 and ended in 1900. So 1901 or 2001 is the beginning of the next century, or in this case, the next millennium as well.
So why all the hype last year? People went crazy, as you well know, about the beginning of a new millennium.
Right.
But I remember even hearing rumblings last year, people saying, wait a second, this really is not the beginning.
That's right. In fact, it's interesting. This is probably the first century in which popular culture overwhelmed the learned. We had these debates starting, I think, in 1700 was the first time this became an issue. But I think the reason why 2000 was a big thing is what we call the odometer effect, which is when your car goes over 100,000 miles, you see those big zeros.
Right.
It's a big deal, and interestingly enough, the computers also had this there was a technological problem with 2000, just the way there was a sort of psychological fascination with it. So there was this tendency to focus on 2000 as a big moment when all the digits changed from 1999. So I think it was the psychological effect doubled by the technological effect, which also was psychological in the sense that we were told it was going to be terrible and it turned out not to be. So I think that's why 2000 got all the hype. And, I was suggesting to people that, if they made 2000, they could do something this year, but we seem to have, sort of so gotten excited about last year.
We're so over it.
Yeah, this is sort of anticlimax.
But you talk about popular culture versus the learned.
Right.
People really in the know, are they going to be celebrating big time at all because they know this is really the beginning?
Yeah, except that the learned also have a tendency to say it's just a number. I mean, Stephen Gould's book on the millennium points out that, in fact, there's no such thing as 1,000 is no significant number in nature. It's a social construct. Now, you could answer that social constructs are meaningful. I mean, there's no such thing as the Eucharist in nature, but it's clearly a significant phenomenon. So I think that there is significance to this, but by and large, I think most people are sort of giving it a miss.
But there is some significance other than the calendar part.
I mean, in a sense, millennialism has two meanings, and they come together. The first meaning is really a religious meaning, and it's not about a chronological date. It's about the beginning of a 1,000-year period, messianic period of peace and justice and fellowship all over the world, swords into plowshares, spears into pruning hooks. So the millennium first takes its significance in this religious, messianic, social transformative context, and then it gets joined in early Christianity and Judaism of around the same time through this notion of the sabbatical millennium, which is that God created the world in 6 days and rested on the seventh. And there's a psalm that says 1,000 years are a day in the sight of the Lord. So when Jesus didn't come back, the tendency was to say, well, the reason he hasn't come back is because we have to wait for the year 6,000. So if you date Jesus' birth to sometime in the 6th millennium, the end of the current millennium becomes the advent of the messianic millennium. So that's where you get the two combined, and that is sort of a constant theme. And it's even sort of a century theme. Around each century, you'll get this kind of activity, which the church ended up in 1300 actually harnessing for Jubilee years. So 1300 is a Jubilee year. This year was a huge Jubilee year. The Pope was preparing for it from the beginning of his papacy.
All right. Well, Professor Richard Landis, quite a highbrow discussion for this early in the morning. Nice to see you, and Happy New Millennium to you.
Thank you.
You member of the Learned U. And now here's Matt.
All right, Katie, thank you. Now that we have a better understanding of the millennium, what does it mean for our future? Gerald Celente, director of the Trends Research Institute, says we'll be living significantly different lives in the very near future, and that holds true in all areas, from technology and science to energy and even religion. Gerald Celente, good morning. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year.
I know you feel that we shouldn't look at this as a year. We should look at this as the dawning of a new age. Very important.
It is a new age, but not, the new age of gurus and airbrush unicorns. Think back. Remember in school they told us the 5th century BC was the golden age of Greece, then we had a dark age, and then an age of exploration. There was a reason for it. There was a different emotion. Something was going on. The new age that we're about to enter is the global age. But it's not only global. I mean, we see it in terms of communication and trade, but it's also global in the understanding that all things are connected. Or as Chief Seattle said, all things are connected like the blood which unites us all. So this is the end of the industrial age and the beginning of a global age.
It's really the shrinking of the world, isn't it? I mean, everything that we thought was so far out of reach in years past is right kind of next door to us now.
Exactly, and we see how interconnected everything is. So that's the beginning of this.
Let's talk about some of the changes that we're going to see in our own lives. And one of the things you say is that the family and the family structure has to change.
Oh, there's no question about it. It already has. You know that Ozzie and Harriet model that we grew up with?
The Norman Rockwell picture,
yeah, it's only 26% of the American public is that kind of family unit. A third of all the families are single parent. Here's a phenomenal statistic. The majority of first births, the first child born into a household, were born into single-family households. So in the new millennium, family takes on the broadest of dictionary definitions.
And you think we'll be seeing more laws passed that cater or deal with alternative families?
We saw it already last year in Vermont. Current events form future trends. So what we're going to see are more his, hers, people living together for shared values.
I would imagine something that's going to impact the family structure is going to be religious structure and the way people view religion. How will that change in this millennium?
Get ready for a new millennium religion. You can see the seeds of it being sown already. When we look at traditional religions, there's a big fall-off in attendance. At the same time, we see a rise in people's quest for spirituality. It's like these books like Tuesdays with Morrie flying off the charts. People looking for a meaning and purpose for life. So at this stage of it, it's a mix and match religion. People are taking a piece of the Kabbalah, a piece of the Bible, finding what they want to find within
Creating
themselves.
a religion that doesn't come as much from a book, that comes more from their heart.
Exactly. Here's a good example. Again, current events form future trends. You know that movement in China, the Falun Gong movement?
Right.
That's an example. That movement is based, by the way, in health. So what are the people doing? They're changing, they're finding a spiritual movement.
Let's take a look at the future and talk about energy. We had the energy crisis that hit California and moved its way across the country in the last couple of months. What are we going to be doing in terms of finding new sources of energy in the next millennium, this millennium?
The greatest change of the new millennium is going to be a new energy, an alternative energy. Probably won't come from wind or solar, geothermal.
But it'll be kind to the planet.
It'll be kind to the planet, pollution-free. Matter of fact, again, current events form future trends. Last year at the University of Berkeley, they were able to